You ever notice that the harder you cling to something, the faster it seems to slip through your fingers? You hold on so tightly to a dream, a person, or an outcome, and instead of bringing it closer, it feels like it moves further away. That tension, that desperate grip doesn't create connection, it creates resistance. Deep down, you know this truth. Think about the moments in your life when you wanted something so badly it consumed you. Did the fear of losing it make you feel lighter? Or did it weigh you down like a chain? We are taught to chase, to grind, to never let go. But what if the real secret is the opposite? What if detachment is not about giving up, but about setting yourself free? You see, when you detach, you're not walking away from your dream. You're walking away from the fear, the pressure, and the emotional cage that holds you back. You're choosing to want without needing, to desire without desperation. And in that shift, everything changes. Because the truth is, what you need most does not respond to control. Love, success, peace, abundance, these things flow toward freedom, not toward chains. Imagine holding sand in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. But when your palm is open, the sand rests there naturally. Detachment is the open palm. It is trust. It is space. It is power. Right now, you might feel like if you stop worrying, stop overthinking, or stop forcing, you will lose what you want most. But think of how much energy you burn every single day carrying that burden. Think of how heavy your heart feels when every moment is defined by the fear of not having enough. What if instead you place that energy into growing yourself, into becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts the things you desire? What if the very act of detaching is what finally allows what you want to arrive? There is science behind this too. Studies on human motivation reveal something fascinating. When your mind is trapped in scarcity, your decisions become smaller, narrower, more desperate. But when you feel abundant, when you trust that good things will come, your brain opens up. You see more possibilities. You take bolder steps. You move with confidence instead of fear. Detachment is not weakness. It is a psychological strategy that unlocks courage, focus, and clarity. So ask yourself, what has clinging cost you so far? Has it brought you closer to love, or has it pushed it away? Has it delivered success, or has it left you exhausted? Has it brought peace, or has it stolen your sleep at night? You already know the answer. And that is why you are here, not to learn how to hold tighter, but to finally learn how to let go. Stay with me, because in these next moments, you will discover why detachment is not about losing, but about finally gaining. Why letting go is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. And if you allow yourself to take this journey fully, you will walk away with more strength, more clarity, and more freedom than you have ever known. Detachment begins with a radical shift in perspective. The understanding that your worth is not tied to what you hold, but to who you are becoming. For so long, you've been taught to measure yourself by outcomes, by achievements, by the approval of others. But that constant measuring only deepens the feeling of lack. It whispers that you are never enough until something outside of you says so. Detachment is the moment you silence that voice. It's the choice to root your value in yourself, not in the chase. Think about how liberating it feels to breathe without asking permission, to stand tall without waiting for someone to clap. That is what detachment gives you. It untangles your identity from results. You can still want, still dream, still pursue, but you no longer confuse the arrival of those things with the proof of your existence. You already are enough. You already carry the seed of everything you seek. Detachment waters that seed by removing the toxins of fear and need. Psychologists have found that when people cling to external validation, their sense of control shrinks. They live like puppets, pulled by the strings of circumstances and the opinions of others. But those who detach regain their agency. They stop begging the world for permission to feel whole. They rise with an inner certainty that cannot be stolen. This is why detachment feels like peace. It's not indifference. It's not pretending you don't care. It's caring so deeply for yourself that you refuse to be enslaved by what you cannot control. Ask yourself, how much of your suffering comes not from reality, but from your resistance to it? How much pain is created by the thought, I need this or I cannot be happy? That thought is a prison. Detachment breaks the lock. It says, I want this, but I will not collapse without it. I desire it, but I will not chain my joy to it. In that moment, the prison doors swing open. And the paradox is this. When you no longer cling, you radiate strength. When you no longer beg, you attract. When you no longer chase, What is meant for you finds its way to you. There is a quiet power in a person who can walk through life with open hands. They are not desperate. They are not defined by scarcity. They do not try to grip the world into submission. They know who they are. And that energy is magnetic. People sense it. Opportunities sense it. Life itself responds to it. This is why the path of detachment is not one of weakness, but of irresistible strength. Look at your own life. How many times have you gotten what you wanted only after you finally stopped forcing it? How many times did love appear after you learned to love yourself first? How many times did clarity come after you surrendered the need to control everything? These are not accidents, they are lessons. Proof that when you detach, you align with flow instead of fighting against it. So let this truth sink in. Detachment is not the end of desire. It is the purification of desire. It removes the desperation, the fear, the pressure, and leaves behind a calm, unshakable focus. It's not about caring less. It is about caring better. And when you care better, you create space for what you truly want to arrive in its own time, in its own way, without breaking you in the process. Detachment is often misunderstood because we confuse it with apathy, but they are not the same. Apathy is the absence of care. Detachment is the presence of a deeper kind of care, the kind that protects your energy, preserves your peace, and sharpens your focus. It is the discipline of saying, I will give my best, but I will not let the outcome control my soul. That shift changes everything. It transforms your effort from frantic to intentional, your desire from heavy to light, your pursuit from desperate to powerful. When you detach, you are no longer begging life to give you what you want. You are declaring through your actions and your presence that you are already whole, already capable, already aligned with what you seek. This declaration carries weight because the human mind is wired to respond to belief. Neuroscience shows that when you act from certainty rather than fear, your brain releases chemicals that expand your creativity and strengthen your resilience. Detachment is not withdrawal. It is the release of fear, which unleashes your true strength. Think of how differently you move when you're not terrified of loss. Your words are steadier. Your choices are bolder. You stop holding back. Detachment removes the trembling hand and replaces it with a steady grip. It allows you to pursue your goals with courage rather than panic. And people can feel that energy. They are drawn to it. They respect it. The world bends differently for someone who carries themselves with calm confidence rather than desperate need. But here lies the paradox. The more you cling, the more you repel. The more you release, the more you attract. This is not mystical. It is psychological. Desperation sends signals of scarcity, and scarcity creates resistance. Freedom sends signals of abundance, and abundance creates flow. Detachment broadcasts abundance. It tells the world, I am enough. With or without this, I will be whole regardless. That mindset frees you to take risks, to trust the process, to remain steady even when things don't go as planned. Ask yourself, what could you achieve if you were no longer afraid of letting go? How much more would you try? How much further would you reach if failure did not define you? Detachment breaks the chains of fear because it detaches your worth from the outcome. You can win and grow, or you can lose and learn, but either way, you are moving forward. You are not stuck in the prison of needing things to happen a certain way to feel alive. That is freedom, and freedom is power. Every moment you practice detachment, you reclaim energy that used to be wasted on fear and doubt. That energy can now fuel your growth, your vision, your transformation. Instead of anxiously waiting for life to hand you what you want, you create from a place of strength. Instead of clutching at what you cannot control, you build what you can. This shift is not small, it is life-altering. So let this truth sink deeply into your heart. Detachment is not surrendering your dreams. It is releasing the chains that keep those dreams just out of reach. When you detach, you finally stop pushing them away with fear and start drawing them closer with strength. You stop chasing and start becoming. And when you become, what you want has no choice but to meet you. The moment you understand detachment, you begin to see how much of your life has been driven by fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of losing what you love. Fear of failing in front of others. Fear has been the invisible hand guiding your choices, shaping your actions, and stealing your peace. But fear only has power when you give it something to hold on to. Detachment is the act of taking that power back. It is saying, you cannot control me anymore. I will live, I will strive, I will grow, but I will not be ruled by fear. Think about how heavy it feels to live constantly afraid of what could go wrong. Every step becomes smaller, every move second guessed, every dream delayed. Fear chains you to hesitation. Detachment cuts the chain. It does not erase fear, but it puts fear in its proper place, behind you, not ahead of you. And when fear is no longer steering your life, courage has room to take the wheel. This is why detachment is not cold. It is fiercely alive. It burns away illusions and leaves only truth. Psychologists have long studied the difference between people who thrive under pressure and those who collapse. The ones who thrive are not the ones who eliminate pressure, but the ones who redefine their relationship with it. They detach from the weight of outcomes and focus instead on the process, on the growth, on the person they are becoming. This mindset shift creates resilience. It allows them to keep going when others stop, to rise again when others fall. Detachment gives you that same resilience. When you detach, you step into a state of flow. Flow is that powerful space where action feels effortless, where focus sharpens, where time almost disappears. Research shows that flow happens when you are fully present, not obsessed with the past or terrified of the future. Detachment makes flow possible because it removes the noise of desperation and clears the path for presence. And presence is where your best work, your best love, and your best life are created. Look at the moments when you were at your strongest. Chances are you weren't overthinking. You weren't obsessing about whether you would fail. You were simply there, alive in the moment, giving your best without clinging to what might happen next. That is detachment in its purest form. Freedom to act with full energy without being crushed by expectation. Imagine if you could live like that, not just in rare moments, but in every area of your life. Ask yourself what would change if you no longer measured your worth by wins or losses. How much lighter would you feel if success was not proof of your value, but simply a reflection of your growth? How much more would you dare to try if failure did not define you? This is the power of detachment. It lifts the weight from your shoulders and places wings on your back. It replaces the constant anxiety of what if I lose with the steady confidence of I will rise regardless. Every time you detach, you practice trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process. Trust that you are not defined by outcomes, but by the depth of your journey. And that trust, repeated daily, transforms you into someone unstoppable. Not because life is easy, but because you are no longer enslaved by fear. You are free to create, free to love, free to pursue, free to become. And freedom is the soil where every dream can finally take root. Detachment is the art of letting go without losing your passion. It is the discipline of wanting deeply, but not being enslaved by that want. This balance is rare, yet it is the very foundation of strength. Most people swing between extremes. They either cling so tightly to their desires that they suffocate them, or they numb themselves, pretending they no longer care. Neither path brings peace. One drains you, the other deadens you. Detachment is the middle path, the path of mastery, where you desire fully but remain free. When you can want something without needing it to complete you, you reclaim your power. You are no longer begging life to fill a hole inside of you. You are standing whole already, simply welcoming what aligns with your journey. That shift creates magnetic energy. People sense it in the way you walk into a room, in the way you speak, in the calmness of your presence. There is no desperation in you, only certainty. And certainty is irresistible. The mind is wired to respond differently when it feels safe versus when it feels threatened. When you attach too tightly, you trigger your own threat system. Stress hormones flood your body, narrowing your focus, creating tension, clouding your clarity. But when you detach, your nervous system shifts. Calm takes over. Creativity flows. Your perspective expands. You start to see possibilities you couldn't see before. Science confirms this. The state of openness fuels better decisions, deeper insights, and higher performance. Attachment is not weakness. It is the gateway to your highest potential. Think about what happens when someone tries to hold on to you too tightly. You feel suffocated. You want to pull away. But when someone loves you freely, without control, you lean in naturally. Life works the same way. The more you cling, the more you push what you want away. The more you trust and release, the more it flows toward you. This truth is simple, but living it requires courage. Courage to stop forcing, courage to stop controlling, courage to let things unfold without your grip around their throat. Detachment also teaches patience. And patience is one of the greatest strengths you can build. When you are patient, you stop rushing the process. You stop demanding results on your timeline. You learn to align with the rhythm of growth. A seed does not bloom by force. It blooms because the soil, the sun, and the season all align. In the same way, your dreams unfold in their time. Detachment allows you to keep nurturing the seed without destroying it through impatience. Ask yourself how much suffering in your life has come from trying to force something before it was ready. How many times did your impatience sabotage your own progress? And how many times when you finally let go did the answer appear on its own? These moments are not coincidences. They are proof. Proof that life responds more generously to patience than to panic. Proof that your deepest wants are not achieved by strangling them, but by allowing them the space to grow. To live detached is to live with faith. Not blind faith that everything will be perfect, but deep faith that whatever comes, you will remain unbroken. You will rise, you will adjust, you will thrive. That confidence is unshakable because it is not tied to one fragile outcome. It is tied to the unchanging truth of who you are becoming. Detachment anchors you in that truth, and from there, no storm can take your peace away. Detachment is not the end of desire, it is the purification of it. When you remove fear, need, and desperation from your pursuit, what remains is a clear and powerful vision. This is the version of desire that strengthens you rather than drains you. It is the kind of desire that inspires consistent action, not frantic reaction. It drives you forward with clarity because it is no longer tangled in the lies of scarcity. It is no longer about proving yourself or clinging to something outside of you. It becomes about expressing who you truly are and allowing life to meet you where you stand. There is a powerful shift that happens when you detach from outcomes. You no longer obsess over how or when something will arrive. Instead, you pour your energy into becoming the kind of person who naturally aligns with it. This changes everything because instead of waiting for success to give you confidence, you build confidence through your daily growth. Instead of waiting for love to complete you, you become love in the way you carry yourself. Instead of demanding life to prove your worth, you embody it with every step. Detachment is this reorientation from needing life to give to realizing you already are. Psychologists call this an internal locus of control, the belief that your life is guided more by your choices than by external circumstances. People who cultivate this mindset are more resilient, more fulfilled, and more capable of navigating challenges. Detachment strengthens this belief. It takes your eyes off what you can't control and fixes them on what you can. And what you can control, your effort, your mindset, your growth, becomes the source of your power. This is why detachment feels so liberating. It returns you to yourself. When you stop gripping outcomes so tightly, you free yourself to act boldly in the present. Fear of failure no longer paralyzes you. Fear of rejection no longer silences you. Fear of loss no longer keeps you small. You start to take risks, not because you are reckless, but because you are no longer enslaved by the idea that everything rides on one result. You understand that life is larger, that growth is ongoing, that no single outcome can define you. This freedom gives you courage, and courage is the fuel of transformation. Think about it. How much of your hesitation in life has been tied to fear of not getting what you want? How many times have you held back because the possibility of failure felt too painful? Detachment erases that hesitation. It says, I will try, I will give, I will rise, and even if I fall, I am still whole. That mindset removes the weight of fear and replaces it with the wings of possibility. You stop asking, what if I lose? And start asking, what might I create? That simple shift turns obstacles into challenges, setbacks into lessons, and uncertainty into opportunity. Every great transformation begins in this space of release. The more you detach from what you cannot control, the more energy you have to master what you can. The more you detach from fear, the more space you create for courage. The more you detach from outcomes, the more you step fully into the present, the only place where life actually happens. Detachment is not about abandoning your dreams. It is about building the strength to walk toward them with steady steps, free from chains, fueled by clarity, anchored in peace. Detachment is the highest form of strength because it demands trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your path, and trust in the unfolding of life. Trust is not something you can fake. It is built through courage, through experience, through the choice to step forward even when the outcome is uncertain. Every time you detach, you are exercising this trust. You are saying, I believe in my ability to handle whatever comes. I believe I'm bigger than any single loss or any single victory. That kind of belief cannot be shaken because it is not borrowed from circumstances. It is born within you. The power of detachment is that it anchors you in the present moment. Fear and anxiety always live in the future. Regret and sorrow always live in the past. But strength, creativity, and peace live here now. When you detach, you stop giving your energy away to timelines you cannot control. You stop replaying what has already happened and stop obsessing over what hasn't yet arrived. You ground yourself in this moment, and from here you can act with focus, clarity, and courage. This is where transformation begins. Not in the illusions of tomorrow or the shadows of yesterday, but in the breath you are taking right now. Psychology calls this mindfulness, the ability to be fully present without judgment. Studies show that people who practice mindfulness consistently experience lower stress, higher emotional resilience, and greater fulfillment. Detachment is the natural doorway to mindfulness. When you release the grip on outcomes, your mind no longer drags you endlessly forward or backward. It allows you to inhabit the present, and in the present, you discover resources you never knew you had. You realize that you are not powerless. You realize that you can shape your next step, and then the next, and then the next, until you have built a life that once felt impossible. Detachment also strengthens your emotional intelligence. When you are not consumed by the desperate need for something to go your way, you can listen more deeply, respond more wisely, and act more authentically. Your relationships improve, not because you control them, but because you release control and show up as your truest self. People trust those who are not desperate. They are drawn to those who stand steady regardless of circumstances. Detachment makes you that steady presence, a person others look to not for neediness, but for strength. Ask yourself, how different would your life feel if you no longer lived in constant reaction to what you cannot control? How much lighter would you walk if you stopped measuring every moment against expectations? Imagine waking up each day not in fear of what could go wrong, but in confidence that whatever happens, you will remain whole. That is not a fantasy, it is a choice born from detachment. Every act of detachment is an act of freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from pressure, freedom from the illusion that you are incomplete without something outside of you. And in that freedom, you begin to notice something extraordinary. You already have within you the strength, the clarity, and the courage you thought you were chasing. Detachment does not strip you of desire. It strips you of illusions. And when the illusions fall away, the real you stands uncovered, unshaken, and unstoppable. Detachment teaches you that control is an illusion. You can influence, you can shape, you can prepare, but you can never control every outcome. Life is too vast, too unpredictable, too alive to be squeezed into the palm of your hand. And yet, this truth is not something to fear, it is something to embrace. Because when you finally stop wasting your strength on what you cannot control, you reclaim that strength for what you can. You place your energy where it matters, on your growth, your choices, your responses, and your vision. That shift changes everything. The human mind craves certainty. It wants guarantees, it wants promises, it wants everything neatly mapped out. But certainty is not life. Life is risk. Life is movement. Life is unknown. Those who cling to certainty remain small, trapped in the prison of safety. Those who embrace detachment discover something greater than certainty. They discover confidence. Confidence that no matter what happens, they will adapt, they will rise, they will find a way. This is the essence of resilience. And resilience is the foundation of lasting success. When you let go of control, you also let go of the weight of perfection. You no longer demand that every step be flawless, that every plan unfold exactly as imagined. You understand that missteps are not failures, they are teachers. Setbacks are not punishments, they are shaping forces. Detachment transforms the way you interpret challenge. Instead of seeing obstacles as threats to your worth, you see them as opportunities to strengthen it. You are no longer fragile, no longer dependent on everything going your way. You become unbreakable because you are no longer defined by the outcome, but by the courage to continue. Research in psychology calls this growth mindset, the belief that abilities and outcomes are not fixed, but can be developed through effort and learning. People who hold this mindset are more persistent, more creative, and ultimately more successful. Detachment naturally aligns you with this mindset. By releasing the need to control the end result, you give yourself permission to engage fully with the process. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what can I learn? That simple question rewires your brain to see possibility where you once saw limitation. Think about how your energy changes when you are no longer obsessed with controlling everything. Anxiety gives way to presence. Doubt gives way to action. You stop overthinking and start moving. You stop rehearsing fear and start practicing courage. This shift is powerful because most people never escape the cycle of trying to control what they cannot. They burn out, they give up, they shrink. But when you detach, you step into freedom. And freedom is the space where your true potential unfolds. Ask yourself, what doors would open if you no longer wasted your energy on trying to control the uncontrollable? How much more could you create if that energy was redirected toward growth, toward action, toward vision? Detachment invites you into that possibility. It does not weaken your ambition. It sharpens it. It does not kill your drive. It purifies it. It removes the noise of fear and leaves only the sound of your true purpose calling you forward. To detach is to surrender the illusion of control and embrace the reality of power. The power to choose, the power to grow, the power to rise no matter what comes. And when you live from that place, life no longer feels like something happening to you. It feels like something flowing through you. You become the calm within the storm, steady, unshakable, unstoppable. Detachment is the doorway to alignment. When you stop forcing, you begin to notice the rhythm of life working with you instead of against you. You start to see opportunities you once overlooked because you were blinded by desperation. You begin to hear the quiet guidance of your own intuition, a voice that cannot be heard when the noise of fear is too loud. This is not magic, it is focus. It is the clarity that comes when your mind is no longer clouded by the obsession of control. You finally give yourself permission to see, to listen, to move with purpose instead of panic. The truth is, life has always been speaking to you, but when you cling too tightly, your vision narrows and your ears close. You become trapped in tunnel vision, obsessed with one outcome, blind to all the other doors opening around you. Detachment widens that vision. It reveals possibilities you never considered, pathways you never noticed, strength you didn't know you had. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You realize that life was never against you. It was waiting for you to let go of fear so you could finally flow with it. This shift is supported by psychology as well. When your brain is locked in stress and scarcity, it limits your problem-solving abilities. You focus only on threats, only on survival. But when you detach from fear, your brain opens into creativity and expansion. You begin to generate new solutions, to explore new approaches, to act with boldness instead of hesitation. Detachment literally rewires your mind to move from surviving to thriving. It is not just a mindset shift. It is a transformation of how your brain functions under pressure. Think about how different your actions become when you operate from this space. You are no longer begging life for scraps. You are creating with confidence. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are giving yourself permission. You stop asking, what if it all goes wrong? And start asking, what extraordinary thing might unfold if I trust myself? That question alone is enough to alter the trajectory of your life. Because when you move from trust instead of fear, your energy changes and life responds to that energy. There's something magnetic about a person who is free from desperation. You can feel it in their presence. They are not chasing, they are not clinging, they are not controlled by the need to be validated. They move with calm assurance. And because of that, people and opportunities are drawn to them. This is not luck. It is alignment. Detachment allows you to embody that same energy, to stop chasing what runs away and start attracting what belongs to you. Ask yourself, what kind of life could you build if you no longer sabotage yourself with fear and desperation? What doors would open if you trusted your path enough to walk with steady steps instead of frantic ones? You already know the answer. It is the life of peace you crave, the success you imagine, the love you dream of. And all of it begins not with grasping, but with releasing. Detachment is not about losing desire. It is about aligning desire with strength instead of fear. It is about walking with vision instead of panic, with courage instead of desperation. When you live this way, you no longer chase life. You move in harmony with it. And in that harmony, you discover the truth. What is meant for you does not need to be forced. It flows to the open hand, to the calm mind, to the heart that trusts its own power. Detachment is the act of reclaiming your inner authority For too long, you may have allowed external forces to dictate your sense of worth, whether it was the approval of others, the success of a plan, or the recognition of the world. This dependency creates a fragile life, one where you rise and fall according to things you cannot fully control. Detachment breaks that cycle. It anchors your worth inside you where no one and nothing can shake it. And from that foundation, you move through the world with unshakable stability. When you live detached, you are no longer enslaved by the endless comparisons that drain so many people. You stop measuring yourself against what others have, against where they are, against how far they've gone. You begin to realize that your journey is yours alone, that your pace is perfect, that your growth is unique. This releases you from the trap of envy and the poison of self-doubt. Instead of shrinking when others succeed, you are inspired. Instead of collapsing under judgment, you stand taller in truth. Detachment gives you back the freedom to walk your own path without apology. Science supports this shift. Studies show that people who detach from constant external validation report higher levels of happiness and lower levels of stress. Their lives are not dictated by the fluctuating opinions of others, but by the steady compass of their inner values. This stability is what makes them resilient. They are not easily swayed, not easily broken, not easily discouraged. They live from a place of grounded confidence, and this confidence is not fragile because it does not depend on anyone else's approval. Detachment is the root of this resilience. Think about how much lighter your life becomes when you are no longer chasing the approval of the world. Your energy is no longer drained by trying to please everyone. Your mind is no longer cluttered by doubts about what others think. You begin to act from authenticity rather than fear, and authenticity is powerful. People may not always agree with you, but they will respect the strength of someone who lives true to themselves. Detachment clears the noise so you can finally hear your own voice, and that voice becomes your compass. Ask yourself, how much of your life has been shaped by trying to be enough for others? How many choices were made from fear of judgment rather than the pull of your heart? And how many times did that fear keep you from stepping into the fullness of who you are? You already know the answer. And you also know that freedom lies in releasing it. Detachment hands you that freedom. It says you are enough as you are, not because the world agrees, but because you finally agree with yourself. When you detach from external validation, you rise into your own authority. You stop living for applause and start living for alignment. You stop needing approval and start embodying truth. You stop chasing recognition and start creating impact. And from this place, life feels lighter, decisions feel clearer, and your path feels steady. Detachment is not the absence of care. It is the presence of self-respect. And when you respect yourself fully, the world begins to reflect that respect back to you in ways you could never have forced. Detachment is the release of pressure, the quiet decision to stop demanding that every moment prove your worth. When you let go of that pressure, you unlock the ability to act with clarity instead of tension. Pressure makes you second guess. Pressure makes you cling to perfection. Pressure drains your creativity and blinds you to possibility. But detachment frees you to perform at your highest level because you are no longer trying to prove something. You are simply expressing what is already within you. That shift changes everything about the way you show up. When you detach from the need to control every outcome, you discover a surprising truth. You become more effective, not less. Athletes call it playing loose. Leaders call it presence. Psychologists call it flow. It is the state where you are fully engaged yet not strangled by expectation. You trust your preparation, you trust your instincts, and you allow the moment to unfold without the heavy weight of fear. Detachment opens the door to this state because it strips away the fear of failure and the obsession with results, leaving only the pure focus of the present. This focus is where breakthroughs are born. Studies show that high performers in every field, from artists to scientists to entrepreneurs, enter their peak states not by clinging harder, but by letting go, by trusting their process, by detaching from the need to control the exact outcome and instead immersing themselves fully in the act itself. This is the paradox of detachment. The less you force, the more powerfully you create. The less you grasp, the more naturally you attract. Think about the times when you were at your best. Chances are you were not suffocated by doubt or pressure. You were calm, steady, alive in the moment, giving everything without obsessing over what would come after. That is detachment at work. It is not laziness. It is not passivity. It is disciplined freedom. It is the courage to give everything without chaining yourself to the result. It is what allows you to enjoy the journey while still moving with purpose toward the destination. Ask yourself how many opportunities have slipped away because you were too afraid of the outcome to act freely. How many times have you held back your best effort because you were paralyzed by the thought of failure? And how different would your life look if you acted without that weight? Detachment offers you that freedom. It gives you permission to try fully, to give fully, to live fully, without carrying the crushing need for things to go a certain way. When you release that pressure, something powerful happens. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You no longer chase after validation in panic. You no longer run from failure in fear. You move with grounded focus, knowing that your worth is not on trial. This creates consistency, and consistency builds mastery. Detachment allows you to sustain the effort needed for greatness because you are no longer burning out under the weight of desperation. To live detached is to walk with steady confidence. It is to say, I will give everything, but I will not break if it doesn't unfold exactly as I imagine. That kind of inner freedom is rare, but it is also magnetic. It draws success, love, and opportunity not because you cling to them, but because you are free enough to meet them with open hands. Detachment sharpens your vision. When you are no longer clouded by fear and desperation, you can finally see your path with clarity. Instead of obsessing over what you might lose, your energy shifts to what you can build. Instead of shrinking under the weight of uncertainty, you rise with focus and direction. This clarity is not fragile because it is not tied to outcomes beyond your control. It is anchored in your values, in your choices, in the steady truth of who you are becoming. With detachment, you stop wandering in the fog of worry and begin walking with purpose. Clarity is powerful because the human mind thrives on focus. When your attention is scattered across fears and what ifs, you weaken your own momentum. But when your attention is grounded in clear intention, your actions line up with your vision. Psychology calls this congruence, the alignment between what you think, what you feel, and what you do. People who live in congruence move with more confidence, experience greater fulfillment, and create deeper impact. Detachment brings you into congruence by removing the noise of external pressure and allowing your inner compass to lead. With this clarity, you also gain resilience. Life will always test you. Plans will fail. People will disappoint. Doors will close. But when you are detached, you are not shattered by these moments. You understand they are part of the process. You take the lesson, adjust your steps, and keep moving. This resilience is what separates those who quit from those who transform. Because success is never about avoiding challenges. It is about refusing to be broken by them. Detachment gives you the mental space to respond instead of react, to rise instead of collapse. Think about how unstoppable you become when setbacks no longer define you. When a closed door is not the end of your dream, but a signal to try another way. When rejection is not proof of unworthiness, but a redirection to something greater. This mindset does not come from clinging. It comes from letting go. Detachment makes you flexible without being weak, adaptable without losing vision. It makes you steady in a world that will always be unpredictable. Ask yourself, how different would your journey feel if you trusted every challenge as part of your growth instead of fearing it as proof of failure? How much more courage would you have if you believed no single outcome could take your worth away? That belief changes everything. It allows you to act boldly, to risk greatly, to keep showing up even when results are uncertain. It keeps you moving when others stop. And it is movement, not perfection, that creates transformation. Detachment is the discipline of staying true to your path even when the world does not yet recognize your progress. It is the strength to plant seeds today without demanding instant harvest. It is the patience to keep building when results are invisible. It is the wisdom to know that value is created in the unseen long before it becomes visible to others. This is how dreams are built, through the steady, detached persistence of one who trusts the process more than the timeline. To detach is to walk with clarity, resilience, and purpose. It is to rise above fear and trust yourself enough to keep going no matter what. And when you live this way, the world cannot help but respond because clarity commands respect, resilience attracts opportunity, and purpose turns even the hardest road into a meaningful journey. Detachment is not about withdrawing from life. It is about engaging with it more fully because you are no longer paralyzed by fear. When you detach, you step into the present with both feet. You stop rehearsing every possible failure in your mind, and you stop dragging the weight of the past behind you. Your energy returns to the only place where it can create change, this moment. And when your focus is here now, you become unstoppable. Every breath, every action, every choice becomes sharper, stronger, more intentional. Living in the present is the key to unlocking your true potential. Neuroscience confirms that when the mind fixates on the past or future, it increases stress and reduces performance. But when the mind is anchored in the now, clarity rises, creativity flows, and calm confidence takes over. Detachment is what allows you to rest in the present moment without being hijacked by what could be or what has been. It keeps you from losing your life to worry and regret, and it returns you to the power of this second, this action, this opportunity. Think about the energy you waste replaying old mistakes, or the hours you spend imagining worst-case scenarios. None of that energy creates progress. None of it moves you closer to what you want. It only keeps you locked in fear. But when you detach, you cut that cycle. You say the past is gone, the future is not yet written, but right now I have power. That mindset changes everything because the present is where all transformation happens. Detachment in the present also deepens your relationships. Instead of clinging to people with fear, you meet them with freedom. You allow them to be who they are without needing them to constantly prove their loyalty or affection. This creates real connection, not one built on insecurity. It allows love, friendship, and trust to flourish because it is not forced. It is chosen, moment by moment. Detachment is the soil where authentic relationships grow. Ask yourself how much of your life has been stolen by replaying what you cannot change or worrying about what you cannot control. How many moments of joy have slipped through your fingers because your mind was somewhere else? And how different would your life feel if you could release that weight and give yourself fully to now? The answer is simple. You would feel lighter, stronger, more alive. You would stop waiting for the perfect future to begin living, and you would start living today. The power of detachment is that it gives you this freedom right now. You don't have to wait for the world to change, for people to understand you, or for circumstances to line up perfectly. You can choose to detach in this moment, to let go of what is not in your hands, and to give your full energy to what is. This is not weakness, it is strength. It is the kind of strength that builds empires, transforms hearts, and rewrites destinies. To detach is to step into the present with courage. It is to stop resisting life and start flowing with it. It is to look at this moment and declare it enough while still reaching for more. And when you live in this state, you discover a peace the world cannot take and a power the world cannot ignore. Detachment is the key to reclaiming your energy. So much of your strength is wasted when you cling to things beyond your control. You replay conversations that cannot be changed. You obsess over outcomes that have not yet arrived. You carry the weight of other people's opinions as though they decide your worth. This constant drain leaves you tired, anxious, and scattered. But the moment you detach, you pull your energy back. You stop pouring it into battles that cannot be won, and you begin channeling it into actions that move you forward. Energy once wasted on worry becomes fuel for growth. When you redirect this energy, you become sharper in every area of life. Your focus deepens. Your creativity expands. Your discipline strengthens. The same power that was once consumed by doubt and fear is now used to build, to create, to rise. Detachment is not the loss of energy. It is the conservation of it. It is the art of refusing to invest in what weakens you and choosing instead to invest in what empowers you. Every time you let go of something you cannot control, you regain strength for the things you can. Psychologists describe this as the locus of control. People who fixate on external forces, things they cannot influence, experience more stress and helplessness. But those who focus on what lies within their control live with greater confidence and resilience. Detachment shifts your focus from the external to the internal, from the chaos of outcomes to the clarity of actions, from what drains you to what builds you. And when your energy is concentrated on what you can actually shape, transformation is inevitable. Imagine how powerful you would feel if you stopped leaking energy into worries, comparisons, and regrets. Imagine if every drop of your strength was directed into your goals, your growth, your vision. This is not a fantasy. It is a choice. Detachment hands you that choice. It asks you to withdraw your attention from distractions and redirect it toward purpose. And when you make that shift, progress accelerates because growth does not come from doing more. It comes from wasting less. Ask yourself, how much stronger would you feel if you stopped chasing approval that never satisfies? How much calmer would you feel if you stopped fighting outcomes that are not in your hands? And how much progress would you see if you gave your full energy to what is within your power? The answer is clear. You would feel alive again. You would feel in control of yourself even when life feels uncertain. And that inner control is what makes outer success possible. Detachment is not about giving up on your dreams. It is about giving up the habits that weaken your pursuit of them. It is about refusing to hand your energy to fear, worry, or doubt. It is about channeling that energy into discipline, persistence, and courage. When you detach, you are not empty. You are full, overflowing with the strength to take action where it matters most. To detach is to reclaim your energy and to stand in your power. It is the decision to stop bleeding strength into the uncontrollable and start building with what is in your hands. And when you live this way, you become a force that cannot be ignored because your energy is no longer wasted. It is fully alive, fully focused, fully yours.